Hey, what's up, everybody? It is DocSports.com's In the Paint, talking all things college basketball now and throughout the weekend. And with me is, of course, Raphael Esparza, our resident bookmaker at DocSports.com, coming to us from the Big Easy, and got some big plans tonight. We won't talk about that right now on air, but we will talk about some games coming up, Raphael. And listen, I was looking at this past weekend, going into the weekend, man. I had about 31 games going into Saturday, and it was about 7 o'clock Pacific time Friday night. And I'm like, I got to pare this down. I got to find a way to at least get this down to 7 to 9 games. I ended up getting all the way down to 3 games, and they came through for me, including BYU over K-State. But you know what I took from this weekend, Raphael, was the fact that the Wisconsin Badgers, who I didn't have this weekend and don't have in their game tonight against Purdue, is a player. This team was rated outside the top 40 at the start of the season, like 48, 49th at Ken Palm, I believe. They are now top 10 at Ken Palm. They're top 15 in everybody's power ratings, at least, not a little bit higher than 15th. And, you know, here they are all of a sudden surprising people with this unbelievable guard lineup. So what did I learn about Wisconsin this week? And this team's a player. They're going to be a tough out. They're 6th in offensive adjusted efficiency. They've been flying under the radar. That's no longer the case. But how about 12-3 against the spread their last 15? They've gone from 100-1 just, 2 weeks ago, down to 35-1. And they may lose to Illinois tonight. We don't know what's going to happen there. Sometimes Illinois could play a great game. That might be a tough spot. I didn't play the game either way. But this is a team that I think if people, again, you missed out on the big number, 100-1, but if you can find 35, 40-1, it's not a bad idea for hedgeability later on. They're not going to shock a lot of people anymore, Raphael, because here they are all of a sudden getting a lot of notice, and here we are talking about them also. But the bottom line is this team's been undervalued all season long.
Yeah, I'm a big fan, and I'm not just a big fan just because the boss loves Wisconsin and lives there. So I know on a brown nose, I'm like you have been talking about Wisconsin. But this is a great game, and we're taping this on an evening game. They're playing with Illinois tonight. I like Wisconsin. This is not the same Wisconsin team I grew up watching when I'm eating cheese curds, and they're playing great defense, and the games are usually 63, 64. This offense, when they're hitting the 3 ball, they can score with the best of them, and we showed them last week when they beat Purdue on that one. I played a little bit on the other side. I played Illinois team total over 78.5. I think it's going to be a high-ranking game. Illinois is averaging 85 points a game this year. I think it's going to be attract me, but I kind of like Wisconsin, even though it's moved to 4. But what I learned on Saturday, I was with you. You know me, I only play one game, and I had a lot of games circled. And I do a show with Robert Faringo last week, and we were talking about Boise State and San Diego State. And I told him, if I can get San Diego State at a good number, Boise State, me and you discussed this. They're not the same team on the road. I had them as a premium play on Saturday night. Had no issue canceling with the Aztecs. Now they're probably last 4 in right now with that big win. So maybe Mountain West can get 3 teams in instead of 2. But road favorites were impressive to me. Houston going to Tucson and winning as a 2.5-point favorites, 62-58. Very impressive win. Houston, some team that I think can get a number 1 seed. I don't think the SEC is going to get 3. I think Houston and Duke will be the other non-SEC teams for number 1 seeds. I'm impressed. Missouri minus 2.5, winning on the road, beating Georgia. I think that lost 87-74. Probably can knock out Georgia out of the tournament. I think Georgia and Arkansas might be looking in instead of playing in the tournament. So I think that was a big win. And then, of course, Auburn +2 against Alabama. I think me and you thought maybe Alabama could hold home court and make that game interesting. They lose 94-85, which I decided was going to be a track meet. I thought maybe someone would score 100. I thought it was going to be the other side. I thought Bama was going to be that. But I think Bama, that one could be – they have a tough schedule, and that's what I learned the most. Bad loss at home. They have to rebound today. They have a tough schedule. I think they could be maybe a 2 or 3 seed if they go early out in the SEC tournament.
Well, speaking of Bama and Mizzou, that happens to be our midweek marquee matchup. So nice unattended segue there, Raphael. But always a pro. Listen, Alabama, Mizzou on Wednesday. I did check about an hour before we jumped on the show here, and Mizzou was a 1.5-point favorite at a couple of books that had set a number. The total 171.5 in this game. That loss to Auburn was a tough one, and I thought they would come through in that game. It wasn't one of my premium plays, but I did think they would come through. We'll see if they recover quickly now in a tough spot in Missouri. I mean, the Tide have an issue in that they're middle of the pack, around 170th in three-point accuracy, but they're 35th in three-point to two-point ratio. That's too many threes for their ability level, I think, for them to get where they want to be, the promised land, by the end of March Madness. They went 5 for 26 from the three-point line against Auburn. That was their main downfall. They got to be careful on Wednesday at Mizzou.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch this game. And how's Bama going to rebound from that devastating loss that everyone was watching? Probably one of the best games. I felt bad that I had to back and forth with hockey, back and forth at Alabama and Missouri, because that was the USA Canada was playing. I won. Missouri 16-1 at home. They have 10-2 against the spread against conference games in their last 12. They're just a tough out to go in there. I think the Missouri guard Caleb Grill is going to be the key factor in this game. If he has another game like he did his last game, I think it's going to be lights out for Alabama. I already said they have a tough schedule. This could be the schedule that I think they can get knocked off to maybe 2 losses and puts them down to a 2 or 3 seed in the SEC tournament. That loss against Auburn, I think, can be a train effect. I mean, what's the mental state game going to be? You have to go to a loud house. I've been to Missouri watching the game. I saw them beat Kansas a couple of years ago. There's a loud stadium. You can't drink in that stadium. Yes, you can drink in that stadium. What kind of stadium can you go and not have a beer? Give me a break. But I just think 10-2 against the spread of the last 12 conference games. I like Caleb Grill. I think Missouri knocks off Alabama.
Many, many years ago, here we go. Uncle Scott with back in the days of yore. I ended up in Columbia, Missouri for both a football game and a basketball game. And when I was in Columbia for the basketball game, I do recall, and I think they still have that club that they call the Antlers, bunch of Missouri Tiger students who make a lot of noise, tough place to play. Having said all of that, Raphael, and knowing that, the biggest caveat for me is Alabama, the mental aspect of losing to Auburn the way they did. I agree with you on that. I still think they're going to come through in this particular game on Wednesday. No, it's not going to be a premium play, anything like that, but I do believe they'll come through. Mizzou off, that they had that one game against A&M a couple of weeks ago where they lost at home, and A&M can't shoot, but A&M got on them defensively, and that was the difference in the game. I'm going to give Alabama one more try here. Again, won't be a premium play, but I do think they get the job done for the sake of in the paint on a Wednesday. Behind the counter, I mentioned at the top of the show, everybody knows by now, Raphael Esparza is a veteran of the behind the counter scenes, making numbers, whether it be football, basketball, what have you. So we always go to him for a couple of big marquee weekend games each week on the show. And we're going to kick things off, Raphael, with Friday, big game, Michigan State at Michigan. The Wolverines are off until this game, while Mich State has a home game with Purdue tonight, Tuesday night. If Sparty gets past Purdue, this game's going to be a battle for the top spot, basically, in the Big Ten. I don't want to take too much away from a good Michigan squad, but I will say this. They're escaping lately at home, and they turn the ball over a whole lot, and that scares you when you got to go up against a team like Michigan State.
Yeah, I made Michigan like a 2-point favorite, total 145. But then when I was doing a little bit more research, I'm like, I almost want to scratch that. They're 1-8 against the spread of their 9 games, and they haven't covered 4 straight home games. They do not play well at home. They don't shoot the 3-ball well at home, and their defense seems to lack in the second half. If you can get them behind and going into halftime, I don't know, maybe the halftime speech is not well, or the kids are looking at their cell phones at halftime. Yes, right, I call them kids. I just don't like the way the Wolverines play Michigan. Danny Wolf versus Jace Richardson, sorry. I think that's going to be a great matchup in this game, and I like Danny Wolf to maybe outplay him and maybe squeeze a victory out for the Wolverines. If I can get 2 or less, I might circle that game to maybe do a little bit more research on that one. This is going to be a fantastic game because everyone thought Purdue and Wisconsin are right now, but don't sleep on either one of these 2 teams, Michigan and Michigan State, on this one. But I made Michigan 2-point, even though I don't like them at home.
Yeah, I like Sparty here. You look at Michigan's last 4 home games, it's resulted in a 2-point win over Purdue, 4-point win over Oregon, 4-point win over Penn State, 4-point win in overtime over Northwestern. And if you dig into those games, you'll see they trailed by 10 in the second half to Purdue. They trailed Penn State by 5 with 2 minutes to go. They even trailed Northwestern late in the second half before getting into overtime and winning that game. More turnovers than assists for the Wolverines in their last 2 home wins. I think that's scary. I like Michigan State to upend them here in Ann Arbor. Let's head under the radar. I love to look at these games we do every week. And a lot of times, most of the weeks, we've been spending a lot of time on the West Coast, Big West, WCC, Mountain West, things of that nature. But there's a big game happening in the A-10 this Saturday, Raphael. George Mason at Virginia Commonwealth. And assuming that VCU gets past UMass on Wednesday, it would set up a home game with George Mason where they're playing for the top of the conference. One of these two teams is going to win the Atlantic 10 this season. George Mason leads by 1.5 games right now. So Wednesday's game is pretty important for VCU. But they're actually power rated, George Mason, 70th, while VCU's 32nd. I think the line's going to be around 7, give or take a half a point. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought it was going to be like around 5-ish. I thought 7 might be a little bit too high on this one. It's going to be a fantastic game. Don't forget, remember back in the day, George Mason was in the Final Four. VCU was in the grade 8 a couple of years ago. There's great schools and great basketball traditions out of both. When this one's going to be a great game that no one's going to talk about. Maybe me and you. We can Google search George Mason and VCU, and you'll see us two ugly guys talking about that game because everyone else is going to be talking about other stuff. Man, it should be a fantastic game. I want to see how VCU plays at the perimeter. If they can shoot the ball well on the perimeter against George Mason, I think they can squeeze out a victory. But this one's going to be a close one. If I see anything 5.5 or higher, I may have to take a shot at the Masons.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking at this as if I can get, it's wishful thinking. If I could get 7, I'm going to be on George Mason. By the way, my daughter almost went to George Mason and almost went to American. Really? And I was real happy when she got cold feet and stayed out in the West because it saved me about $70K per year. So, she's my only kid, but my favorite kid too. So for doing so. But anyway, I think it's going to be an interesting matchup. I want VCU to get past UMass on Wednesday because I think that sets up a decent situation where VCU is not thinking we got to win this game no matter what. They got to think that way anyway, but it's not as urgent. And again, I'm with you. If I can get that kind of a point spread of around 7, that'll be a situation where I think we can take advantage of the underdog getting a few too many points. Money shot, also known as best bets. Raphael, kick it off, brother.
Well, I'm going to answer Rodney's question first. He has any thoughts on the UCLA-Minnesota game. This is one of the late games tonight. The number was going to move because of the late game. People might be chasing. People might be rolling into parlays in it. I put the total at 129 over, and now it's up to 131. Myself, I'm going to probably look the middle because I think it's going to go up higher because Joe Public always likes to bet the favorite and over on late college basketball games. So if I can get a better number, I can try to middle it. If you're looking for a UCLA, the number is 11.5 right now. Opened up at 13. It is coming down. See how far that comes down if you like UCLA. If you're on the other side, maybe live betting, try to get that 13.5 that we missed a couple hours ago. So that's what I would have on that one. But my money shot was a game that we were supposed to talk about behind the counter. Iowa State at Houston. The number, I made Houston like -4, total 135. I love Houston. They were so impressive to me what I saw on Saturday. If I can get 6 points or less, I can guarantee you I'm circling that game to look at that. I was very impressed with how they played against Arizona. Their defense in the second half was lights out. They shoot the 3 ball and they shoot free throws well. They're shooting their free throws a lot better. I would say the second half. The beginning of the season, they couldn't hit a free throw to save their life. I just like the way team basketball. Let me repeat that. Team basketball. We don't see that much team. We don't see team basketball in Arizona. It was just love jacking up threes between 3 guys guarding them. Houston plays great team basketball. And I think that's the reason why they win again. Iowa State. They beat Iowa State. I'm not sold on Iowa State's dropped 3 of their last 7 true road games. They're going to struggle against Houston's defense.
I would like to say that I'm so damn smart that I could actually feel that Raphael was going to use this game as his money shot. So I skipped it during our marquee matchups, but I accidentally skipped it. So I'm glad you brought it up. I went right past it. And I'm like, oh yeah. So anyway, I'm going to go with my top play, my money shot. And it's actually, we're doing this live so everybody can take advantage of this if they want to. It's a 9 p.m. Eastern tip-off tonight. It's Kansas against BYU. Kansas getting 3 right now in Provo. And I do think it's a buy low spot for the Jayhawks, who have certainly underwhelmed. They were number 1 in the preseason rankings. They've fallen outside of those ranking systems that don't care about sports betting, outside of the top 25. But for bettors, they're still top 25. I mean, Ken Palm's got him 16th. I think that's a little too high. I've got him 19th. They opened Pick'em in the books that get out in front of things early in this game tonight and are now getting a full 3 points. A lot of love from a lot of people right now on BYU. The Jayhawk fade has been on all day. But Raphael, I made Kansas 1 in Provo. I'm not taking bets, but that's my power rating number. Kansas 1 in Provo. And I had BYU as a big 7-star on Saturday night. They were in a great spot. Kansas State was in a very bad spot, but I don't think that's the case tonight. You look at KU, they're still fantastic on defense, 5th in defensive adjusted efficiency, 13th and 13th against the 2, 9th against the 3. BYU takes a whole lot of threes, and I think that's going to be an issue tonight for the Cougars. Again, they caught K-State at the perfect time. K-State was off wins over Kansas and Arizona, but getting 3, I'm going to give the Jayhawks one more chance to come through in a game that they don't really need to win, but boy, it could sure help because they haven't been on the same page on offense for a good chunk of this season. So that'll be my money shot. And again, it's a 9 p.m. Eastern time tip tonight, Tuesday night, Kansas plus the points. Any thoughts on that one, by the way?
Yeah, if you like BYU, you missed it already. I mean, it's 3 opened up at 1.5. There's no value at 3, I think, in my eyes, because I made the number 2.5. So, okay, yeah, it moved a half a point. In my eyes, there's no value. This one could move to 3.5. You hit the nail. It's a 9 o'clock game. Everyone loves the BYU train right now. Everyone's drinking the BYU Kool-Aid because they can't have caffeine at BYU University. So they're drinking the Kool-Aid right now. I think this number does move to 3.5. I think the public's going to probably put that all on the other late game. If you get 3.5, it could easily almost go up to 4 that quickly on a 3.5 number. So yeah, I think Kansas is the side right now. And if it was 1.5 when it first opened up, I'll be like, ooh, BYU, they look very impressive. Their last game, you already said, congratulations on that cash against Kansas State. But this game's gonna be much tougher than the Wildcats that they played their last game.
Yeah, good stuff. I like your money shot, by the way, also. And again, I was saving it to give you the complete spotlight focus on that game. That's why I skipped through it, but I was on the same side as you anyway. So let's get these money shots, these best bets to cash. And of course, guys, don't forget about that $60 free account if you're not yet a member over at DocSports.com. You click on the link below the video. You get yourself set up for that free $60 account, and you can use those free $60 on any of our daily packages at DocSports.com. It's a pretty cool way to give it a trial run. For Raphael Esparza, I'm Scott Spreitzer. For our producer, Michelle, we are DocSports.com's In the Paint. Let's put them in the win column, everybody.